Hi, I'm Joe Farsetta. I'm coming to you today live from NACHI's TV studios in Boulder, Colorado, and I want to talk to you about some inspection techniques and tips that you may not have thought of. Now, one of the many things that we worry about as inspectors is what's the condition of the roof. With our luck, we show up and it's a very sunny day. In fact, maybe it hadn't rained in quite a while. So what can we as inspectors look for signs or telltale signs if a roof had leaked at one time or another? What I like to do is I like to look at the ceilings of the closets that sit below a roof structure. I take my flashlight inside that closet and I carefully examine the ceiling. Chances are, if the roof had been leaking, water may have trickled down into the area of that closet and may have affected that ceiling. I look for stains, I look for watermarks, I look for anything that may indicate that a leak had existed at one time or another. Another killer concern we have has to do with water intrusion, especially on homes that have basements. So what can you do? With our luck, the basement's recently been finished or refinished. We have to go down there and try to figure out if water had ever entered the space. Probably the last thing that gets renovated or replaced in a basement are the basement stairs. So what I like to do is I like to take a knife or a probe and probe the bottom of the stair stringers. Chances are, if the basement has an inordinate amount of water, through the years especially, that the bottoms of those basement stair stringers will be rotted or soft. I want to take some time to bring your attention to wooden fences and, more importantly, wood-destroying insects. When I examine a wooden fence, I look at where the fence ends and if it's permanently attached to the house, either with the fence section on the house or perhaps a fence post. An important thing to recognize, if at any point along a fence, a wooden fence, that wood-destroying insect damage or infestation is noted, the other thing you need to note is whether the fence is permanently affixed to the structure. If it is, then the structure is considered to be infested also. An important tidbit to know when doing wood-destroying insect inspections. Another thing I'd like to speak to you about is ovens, ranges, and oven doors. When looking at a freestanding range, it's important to see if anti-tipping brackets have been installed on that device. They've been required since '91 and they'll prevent the oven from tipping forward. If a small child decides to sit or stand on an open oven door, that device can tip forward and seriously injure or kill them. So that's of paramount importance. Whether or not you test the oven for functionality is up to you, but the least I would want you to do is turn on the oven itself. I like to set the oven temperature at 400 degrees, and after it comes up to temperature, I like to physically feel that oven door. If the oven door is warm enough where it feels uncomfortable or burns my hand, it will definitely cause damage to the occupant of the home or a small child. More importantly, it's an indication that the insulation in the oven is failing, the oven is no longer functioning efficiently, it's costing more money to operate, and the seals may have been compromised in that oven as well, which could result in dangerous carbon monoxide belching into the kitchen area. Okay, you're inside a house, it has high ceilings, maybe cathedral ceilings. You're just kind of getting the feeling that maybe something's not quite right. You're not sure exactly what it is, and you want to take a closer look at the walls. Well, obviously staring at an opaque structure, a painted surface, isn't going to give you much indication of what's been going on there. So what I like to do is I like to take my flashlight, walk to the wall, place my flashlight flatly against the wall with the beam facing upward, turn it on, and what happens is any imperfections in that wall manifest themselves as shadows. I get a good idea of what's been going on with the wall. I can generally tell if it's been repaired. I can tell if there's a little bit of lateral displacement in between one surface and another. And it gives me a better understanding and a better view, and more importantly, a better clue of things that may have been going on in the house over the years. Okay, here's an easy tip for anybody that's inspecting a house with private well equipment. I want you to pay close attention to any sounds you hear when you turn on a fixture. As water is running, listen carefully for any clicking you may hear or any well pump activity you may hear, and what we're looking for is short cycling. On and off, on and off, on and off. When you hear this, even clicking from the well pump relay, it's generally an indication that the pressure tank is defective or may need to be replaced. Okay, I want to talk to you about two-prong and three-prong electrical receptacles, and I want to explain the difference between the two. If you didn't know it, a two-prong receptacle may actually be a grounded receptacle. The third prong has nothing to do with the grounding of the receptacle. The grounding to the receptacle comes from the system. So when evaluating two-prong versus three-prong receptacles, it's important to look at the condition of the electrical system itself. The system needs to be grounded, And the branch circuit wiring needs to be able to extend the system ground to the receptacle it ultimately attaches to. Again, two-prong receptacles may indeed be grounded. Three-prong receptacles enable that receptacle to extend the system ground to any device which may require it. So before you call out that a system is ungrounded merely because it has a two-prong receptacle, you need to check the system itself. You want to be right with the advice that you give to that homeowner. I want to talk to you now about chimneys and flues. Unless you have X-ray vision, you have no idea what's going on inside a chimney. It is one of the most important pieces of a home for safety purposes, yet we can't see inside that. If you're not automatically calling for a level 2 inspection of every chimney and flue as part of your inspection report, you're leaving yourself open for a lawsuit. You can't see inside it, but like everything else, we, the inspector, are typically responsible for it. The fact of the matter is you have no idea what's going on inside a chimney or flue. That chimney may or may not be lined. So aside from looking for the obvious things like if chimneys have a cap or not, you want to look at the age and physical condition of the external components of a chimney, and you always want to call out for a level 2 inspection of the internal workings of the chimney and the flue automatically. You really don't know what's going on inside that space. I want to talk briefly about inspecting electrical panels and one of the signs that we often see inside it, which is water intrusion. When you take that dead front cover off, as soon as you see signs of water or moisture intrusion, whether it be rust at the bottom of the panel or whether it be corrosion on any terminals, you need to close that panel up quickly. You need to note it in your report. The only thing that can be done at that point is evaluation by a qualified electrical contractor. Notify your client of what you found, and the best thing to do at that point is move on. Exterior doors, they're often open for quite a bit of time while the family goes in and out, and many times it's raining when that happens. This is often a spot where water tends to intrude, and if it's possible for you to gain access below this point, these doors, whether it be in a basement or a crawl space, it's a good idea to take a careful look at any structural elements beneath here. You're looking for signs of water intrusion. You're looking carefully at any subflooring materials, at rim joists, at sill plates, looking for any signs of water intrusion, and of course mold goes along with that may have occurred through the years. Vegetation on the property. We all walk the grounds and we look for signs of vegetation. Sometimes it's too close to the house. But do we spend enough time looking at trees? Trees are an important element that we often overlook, especially dead trees. Dead trees fall, cause a tremendous amount of damage to structure, can kill people, can destroy all sorts of things. So we want to look for dead trees. We want to look for dead tree limbs. We want to look for any overhanging tree limbs that could eventually cause damage to the house. The last thing we want to look at when we're looking at trees is we're looking at tree stumps. Tree stumps are often a source of food or nesting material for wood-destroying insects. We want to pay close attention to any dead tree stumps that we see on the property and note anything we see. Many of the homes that we inspect have forced warm air heating systems, and often they're equipped with humidification units. Now, sometimes these humidifiers are installed above the heat exchanger, and many times these humidifiers are damaged or defective or no longer in use. Often when they fail, they leak water on top of the heat exchanger, which can cause that exchanger to rust, resulting in all sorts of hidden damage and even possibly rust or cracks. So whenever you see a humidification system above a forced warm air heating unit, you want to pay close attention to it. If it's defective or there are signs of leaking in any way, you're going to note that in your report and you're going to call for further evaluation. Now, many times we're strolling through a house, we're inspecting areas, and they're filled with furniture, or what's even worse, stored items, clutter, garbage, whatever. It impedes our ability to inspect an area. It's really, really important to note this on your report, and if you're carrying a digital camera, you want to photograph this for posterity. You're not necessarily photographing a defect. More importantly, you're photographing why you can't do a thorough inspection in an area that's no fault of your own. Many times while we're inspecting a home, we'll come across areas where there are air freshening devices plugged in or there are air fresheners about, and it masks odors that may normally be detected within a room. This absolutely impedes our ability to inspect. So you want to make note wherever there are air fresheners plugged in, or more specifically, you want to absolutely note when you see kitty litter boxes or there are pets in the house. Often these odors from animals will mask other odors such as mold or other health concerns. Urine from animals can have a devastating, long-term, near-permanent effect on anything that it permeates. You want to note any of these conditions in the home and protect yourself. You know, we mentioned moisture intrusion in homes and specifically in basements a little earlier in the show. So I want to bring your attention to things that we often see, and it's important to note if you come across a French drain system. Now, you may see French drains where they're not that obvious, or you may see French drains installed where it's obvious that the concrete slab in the basement has been chopped and re-poured. You'll want to ask the seller if they were the people that put the French drains in. That would be an indication of an ongoing water intrusion problem that may have existed at one time or may still exist. If there are French drains, such as a sump pit with nothing in it, these may have been left over from the time the home was constructed. It may be an indication that there is no long-term water intrusion problem in the basement. It's important to pay attention to these things and to note them in your report. You want to be as thorough as possible and look for signs of moisture intrusion. Well, that just about wraps up the show. I hope you enjoyed it, and more importantly, I hope you learned something. We as inspectors need to continually refine our inspection processes, and I hope you gain something from the show. Whether you're a new inspector or a seasoned inspector, I hope a light bulb went on inside your head and say, hey, I didn't know that, or gee, that's a good idea, or gee, I used to inspect that way. I wonder why I don't do that anymore. You want to continually reevaluate your inspection processes and always look for ways to improve what you do. That's it for me at InterNACHI TV. Hope to see you next time.